Are you ready to stop fighting and start loving again? What if I told you that the key to connection and harmony in your marriage can be found at the intersection of law and compassion? I'm Shar, founder of Law for Love, the most special place in the legal system in Atlanta, where we use the power of law to promote love for healthier families, stronger communities, and love that transforms the world. Thank you for joining me for Law for Love Live, discussing the power of law to promote love for healthier relationships, relationships that build our families, relationships that build our communities, relationship that makes the world go round in our new global economy where the world has become smaller and smaller, and contracts are at the root of every single relationship. For those of you who do not know me as a general law practitioner, 99% of my work involves contracts, and contracts are absolutely beautiful. And for my fellow legal practitioners who also have a creative bend, as I do, you would be able to appreciate the creative power that we have with contracts. Contracts, from the outside looking in, they appear to be very rigid. They appear to be boring, stiff, formal. But a lot of creativity is involved in designing great contracts. And that is the work that I love doing in the relationship space, especially after navigating through my own personal journey and walking other clients through contract analysis, looking at your beliefs, judging your own thought world, and determining whether or not what you're thinking, what you're believing, what you're agreeing to actually aligns with the desired outcome that you dream about, the desired outcome that you've been complaining that you don't have. And understanding contract law is the foundation of getting to that place. So I want to lay the foundation here. What is a contract? A contract is an agreement between two or more parties where there is a meeting of the minds and where there is an exchange of consideration. What, more simply put, give and take. What did you give to receive the benefit of the agreement? And what happens is, when it comes to the internal contracts that each and every one of us has, we don't look at ourselves as a party to a contract with our subconscious mind. Your beliefs are literally agreements that you have made subconsciously. And that agreement creates the power of law that has been operating in your life, the thing that you agree to. So I'll give you a really simple example. Here at Law for Love, we use a variety of technologies, and you all can relate that technology is great, apps are great, and sometimes they wig out, sometimes they do something weird, sometimes they glitch, right? And there have been times here at Law for Love where we get snagged with our technology just having an attitude. And I'm typically pretty cool at diving into a little tech hack or fix. That might take 5 to 10 minutes, but once it gets beyond that 10-minute mark and I feel the frustration, the frustration is rising, because why? I'd rather be doing my work. I'd rather be on the phone with my clients. I'd rather be mapping out agreements that are bringing harmony into people's lives. And now, at minute number 11 of this technical issue, frustration begins to boil within me. And what I've learned to do as a contract, as an agreement with myself, and which has become the Law for Love internal culture, is we will not be defeated. I will stare in the face of something technical not working, and I declare, I will not be defeated. That statement is a contract. I will not be defeated is a contract with hope and victory and maintaining emotional equilibrium and not popping off, cursing someone out, or having my whole day ruined because technology is having an attitude. That is an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about your contracts with yourself. In my world as a family practice, what is typical is husband wants to address what wife is doing wrong so that wife can see the reason why she needs to change her behavior. And wife wants to talk about what husband's been doing wrong so that husband can understand how his behavior is making her feel and why he needs to change his behavior. This is the very common and traditional approach to navigating conflict in our most intimate spaces, and it's just wrong. And I say this from the standpoint of having been the runaway bride for 8 years, the first 8 years of my marriage, literally the runaway bride. Every single weekend fantasizing of jumping in my car, throwing my phone out of the window, and driving off into the sunset. That is who I was. I remember demanding that my husband would go to therapy with me. I remember posturing and giving him ultimatums that he needed to change. I was miserable unless he was going to change. And we went to pastoral care. We sat down with pastors for months. And did it feel good to talk to a pastor and to feel heard and understood by the pastor, to be affirmed that I wasn't completely crazy for the things that I was expressing, when the pastor didn't freak out and give me the same lecture that my husband would give me for feeling the way that I felt? Yeah, it felt better in the moment. And then we went back into our old patterns and our old power struggles, and we were back at it again, fighting. And then we started going to a licensed therapist, a very well-known and respected therapist in Metro Atlanta. And one thing led to another, where when the therapist attempted to get too close to some stuff during a session with both of us, my husband, he pulled out of the process and refused to go back. And we went right back to fighting. And some time would go by, and I began working on my own stuff. I recognized that I had more power to deal with me and how I was showing up, and to explore what it was that I was asking my husband for, and whether or not I could take care of those things for myself. Getting to the place where I began to examine myself when I just put him on the back burner, where I just made the decision that I want to do what I got to do because I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I'm using all of my energy going through each day pretending to be okay when I'm not. I don't look forward to going home. I don't laugh or play or have fun with my family. And that was my state of being until I began examining my own contracts. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And that's why I'm sharing those insights and that methodology now through Law for Love and the work that we do, because I alone in my marriage had more leverage and more power and more influence to completely turn the atmosphere of my house from one of sadness and despair to one of laughter and peace, literally laughter and peace in my home. So, step one is about recognizing that you, as an individual in your life, no matter what relationship is driving you to content like this, whether it's a husband and wife relationship, whether it's a parent child relationship, whether it's a relationship with a close friend, even if it's a relationship with a business partner or a coworker, well, you as an individual come into every single relationship with your own package of contracts, and those are your beliefs. Those are the things that you believe about yourself and the things that you believe about others when it comes to the way that you see yourself. One of the very, very common beliefs that people bring into relationships is a fear of rejection. Now, fear, as a very, very broad area of contract law, has subsets or subcategories of other fears. In intimate spaces, the fears that I've observed more often than others because I've overcome them in myself are fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, and fear of failure. And it's equally distributed between men and women. It's not just a woman thing, it's not just a man thing. It's fear that we all bring into our relationships. And when you understand that your contract with fear creates a persona that's showing up to protect you and actually pushing people away from you, driving people away from you, then you understand the reason why you have to sit down and you have to deal with this particular contract. Now, if you would find my Facebook page over at Law for Love ATL, I periodically post journal prompts, the types of conversations you should be having with yourself. I know it's easier to go and sit with a therapist and talk with a therapist and use a therapist as a sounding board, and that's great. I'm all about mental health and getting help and, yes, getting support. But how often are you able to talk to your therapist? Are you able to talk to your therapist every day? What mechanism do you have in place where you can have honest conversations with yourself? Because yes, it's easy to pick up the phone and talk to someone else and feel empathy from someone else. But are you investing that same loving connection into yourself and having an honest conversation with you? That is the reason why I love journal writing so much, because the journal is a powerful place to have an honest conversation with yourself, to ask yourself some hard questions and to be honest about it. Now, I know writing isn't for everyone, but maybe you should have a conversation with yourself. Take your phone and ask yourself a question, a hard question, and record a voice memo giving yourself the answer. We don't spend enough time having conversations with ourselves, which is why a lot of us, we seek validation, we seek approval, we seek someone else to tell us, oh, you're right, you're not crazy, for someone else to accept us before we've first done the work to accept ourselves, before we first had a conversation with ourselves. Bringing the thought or the idea from your subconscious mind, the other contracting party in your relationship contract with yourself here. Your subconscious mind is the second party. Your subconscious mind has fed you some type of logic, some type of idea, and you have chosen yes and have agreed with it. As someone who has done a lot of work in this space with intentionality and on a conscious level on the forefront of the mind, right? Recognizing that I got to pull stuff out of the back of my mind to the forefront of my mind and deal with it. Is this belief serving me? And And the more I began to do this work with myself, the more I began to notice the same exact patterns in the lives of my clients. And I would challenge my clients. My clients would say something like, I'm so stupid. That's a common one. A common contract that people have. I'm such an idiot. The fact that you say it out of your mouth actually is evidence that it exists in your subconscious mind as an agreement. The thing you say about yourself. Did you know that? Did you know that the things you say repeatedly about yourself reveal contracts that you've made in your subconscious mind? And that these contracts have legal authority to continue to prove you right. See, the thing that's so beautiful and so powerful about our mind is always going to produce logic. It's always going to give you 1 + 1 = 2, even if logic is not reality. It just has to be mathematically sequenced for the mind. It doesn't have to be actual reality. It can be make-believe so long as it's logic. And our not understanding and appreciating that about our own minds, we are often very negligent about thinking about what we're thinking about or examining our words for what contract exists in our mind so that we can deal with it and say, wait a minute, hold on. That contract is a bad deal. That contract is not serving me well. That contract, I need to break my lease with that contract. Many of us walk around with thoughts that are limiting. And if you're believing that you're not good enough, then what's happening with your agreement when you're interfacing with your husband or with your wife who is simply telling you that something that you did hurt them? You're becoming defensive because you're interpreting their hurt as you're not good enough. You're seeing you're not good enough when all they're saying is, hey, that hurt me. Will you not do it again? And it doesn't matter how they say it. It doesn't matter if they say it in a soft tone. It doesn't matter if they tell you at the right time of the day after you've already relaxed after coming in from work. It doesn't matter if they catch you after the game. When your contract, the thing that you truly believe, the law that's operating in your subconscious mind in your life is, I'm not good enough. Anytime your husband or your wife comes to you and says, hey, I didn't like that, what you really hear is your own contract that you're not good enough. I hope that you see this. I hope that you are seeing that examining your thoughts, examining your words, and testing them. Is this true? A lot of people get into religious debates and theological arguments. Listen, I don't argue faith with anybody. And the reason why is because I've simply chosen to believe that love is true and truth has the power to heal. So love has the power to restore. That is what I've chosen to believe is true. And yes, for me, the foundation that I test against any belief system that I'm operating out of, any language that I'm using, language, right? That's a big contract thing. We're always talking about language. Hey, can we tweak the language here? Can we change the language? The language. I am always testing and judging my language against the Bible. Absolutely. Because I have found that the principles, the foundational truths, the universal things that do not change have served me better to find love and acceptance for myself and to align my thought world with words and actions that lead me closer and closer to the desired outcome that I know my Heavenly Father has for me. It's really quite simple. Recognize that there are agreements operating against your best interest and identify them. Identify them with the help of a life coach, with a therapist, by journal writing. Use all three. Put together a dream team of mental health and awareness. Whatever it takes that's going to get you the support you need to confront fear. Because one very powerful principle is that perfect love throws fear out of the house. When you have confronted the thing that makes you afraid, when you have confronted this nagging sense that you've always had since you were a little kid, that no one else really would accept you for who you really are, and you've preoccupied yourself with being a people pleaser and wearing masks and being whoever you need to be, the chameleon of the day, just so that you can experience what you think love and acceptance looks like. You're deteriorating and dying slowly on the inside, depressed in secret, because nobody else knows who you really are, and you've been too afraid to even discover you. If you want to be more peaceful in your home, if you want to live in more harmony with your sweetheart, if you want to get along better with others, the first place to start is accepting the fact that you is who you is. You can break the contract that you've made with trying to make everyone else happy so that you can feel like you belong. You can take that contract right now and you can tear it up. Tear it to shreds. Tear up your contract with people pleasing and the idea that you have to be what everyone else needs you to be, that you have to show up the way everyone else will love you and accept you, that if you perform, why are you performing for love? Love is a gift for you being who you are, a gift that says thank you for being who you is, because you is who you is. That's what love is. It is a gift. It is not a reward. And for too many of us, we formed the contract with performance-based love because love was withheld from us, or what we thought was love was withheld from us when we were misbehaving, when we did bad things as kids. We got rewards for performing, and we got consequences for not performing. And somehow in our little minds, we all equated performance with how to get love. That's a childish contract. Should you show up and serve and give of yourself and of your resources as an act of kindness and as an act of love towards other people? Absolutely. But if the thing that you're doing is really calculated so that you can feel accepted or you can feel loved, then are you really loved? And are you really giving it? The thing is this, that we want to start the conversation about love by first looking at how we're getting along or not getting along with someone else. But the very first person is you, and the least that you have made with your belief systems that keep showing up. These are the belief systems that show up and in the back of your mind are saying, see, you're a failure, you're a failure. I knew you weren't going to be able to do it. Those are contracts. And when you decide you're going to break those contracts, you know how you make them work. You know how you make them last. You know what I discovered? You take that false belief, you disagree with it. This is not true. I will no longer believe a lie. And then you replace that lie with a truth. I will not be defeated. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of mutually beneficial relationships. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was created to be loved. I was created as an object of love, and so therefore I am loved. You don't have to keep waiting for the world to prove to you that you're worthy of love. Just go love you. Go find you. What happened to the things you loved to do before you started becoming what you thought everyone else needed? What happened to the little kid and the things that you used to love as a little kid that you felt too ashamed of, so you put it away and you closed off a part of yourself from anyone ever knowing because you were too embarrassed about whatever that little quirky little thing was you loved as a kid? Why not just be you? Why aren't you bringing you to the party? Why aren't you giving the world the opportunity to love you? Why are you hiding? When we stop being afraid, then all of the little whispers and thoughts and boogeymen of what everybody else is thinking and what everyone else is saying, what other people are going to think, it all just poof, it disappears. And there's nothing magical about it. It's 100% legal. You found terms in your contract that are inconsistent with the life you really want. You broke your contract that was not serving you well, and you created a new contract that serves you. You go in, you identify all of the terms that you've agreed to that are inconsistent with the life you truly want, the reality that you truly want and dream of. You break your agreement with all of those inconsistent terms because you've discovered that they're not true and that they're only operating to bring misery and conflict into your life. And then you form a new agreement based on truth and love that requires you to only be you, the whole you, and nothing but you, so help you God. That is the power of law to heal your relationships. And do you know what I discovered is that I no longer had to wait for my husband to change in order that I would be happy. What I discovered was that I held the only key to peace in my mind and in my emotions, because there was an old contract that I had, a contract that told me that I was only worthy of love if my husband was happy with me, that I was only loved in his sight, and if he was disappointed in me for some reason, then I was no longer lovable. I was being rejected and thrown away. I was no good. I conditioned my happiness on someone else's approval. And I neglected and violated who I am as a person, attempting to change immutable characteristics. And when I say immutable characteristics, I'm loud, I'm bossy, I'm nerdy, I'm silly, goofy, playful, and serious all at the same time. That's who I am. But I got to a place in my marriage where I was more busy trying to be like him and trying to mirror his personality so that he could feel safe and secure in our relationship. And as a result of being too afraid to be myself because I was interpreting being myself as being unlovable, I morphed into someone I didn't even recognize in the mirror. Your problem isn't just what your husband's doing or not doing. Your problem isn't just what your wife's doing or not doing. Your problem isn't just your loved one or your friend or your neighbor or your coworker. They're the least of your problem. Are there things that they could probably do to make things a little more harmonious in the contract you have with them? Absolutely. But the starting place is you and how you're showing up for yourself and how you are first practicing love and acceptance with you. That is contract numero uno. So once you've formed a new contract with truth in any area of your life, then you begin to practice what you believe. Part of the downfall of so many faiths, and I'm not going to pick on just one, I'll just say faith across the board, is that people say out of their mouth one thing that they believe, but when you closely examine their life, their behavior just doesn't match their talk. Well, when you are working on the legal aspects of your life, of your belief system, of aligning your thoughts with the things that you say you want, you now are in the perfect position to practice what you believe. If you believe that you will not be defeated, then everything you do should line up with not being defeated. If you believe that you are loved, then every response you have comes from a place of being secure in love. If you believe that peace is a gift that you can have, then you will insist on creating peace for yourself. In fact, aligning your behavior with the things that you're saying in your new contracts is actually where peace lives. Peace lives in the place of alignment. Peace dwells where you are congruent, where you are matched in thought, word, and action. And when you are practicing that more and more each day, you begin to recognize that you show up into any space and the atmosphere changes because you got there, because you are now commanding peace. And people are like, oh my gosh, you have such a soothing presence. Oh, I just feel so at peace when I'm around you. But that comes automatically with alignment. Because when you've been saying things different than what you really believe in your subconscious mind, your true contract, you've actually been operating from a place of internal conflict. And that is the conflict that is feeding the conflict in your relationships with other people. How are you going to be at peace with somebody else when you're not at peace with yourself? Make that make sense. So the third step, after you form your new deal, practice your new contract. Live according to the terms of it. Refuse to make any choices that do not match your new deal or the words that you're speaking. Refuse to do it. And that is where you will see things beginning to change. People feeling more comfortable in spaces even when you're not agreeing. You're being heard because you first listened to yourself. And you've learned how to respect what you have to say. And then you show up less needy, less demanding. You're not showing out as a toddler having a tantrum or a manipulative little kid, and you're not being the rebellious teenager because you've taken care of yourself. And that was always your job to begin with. That was never your husband's job to take care of you and your thought world. That was never your wife's job to take care of you and your deep-seated fears. That was never anyone else's job. It was only yours all along. So when you begin doing the hard work, you face your fears, and you are no longer afraid of looking weak, sounding weak, or being taken advantage of, when you are no longer afraid of that, then you realize you had more power all along. And you have the confidence to continue to show up as you, in full loving acceptance of you, and ready to love and accept everyone else. So, here at Law for Love, we use the power of the law to promote love. And I would challenge you to join us on our Facebook page at Law for Love ATL, where we post agreement audits throughout the week to challenge you to have a conversation with yourself. Look, if you're like me, these are ways that you can journal and have some really honest conversations with yourself. I personally have learned how to treat my journal like a daily multivitamin. The more I write, the better I am. And only to learn years later that the process of writing is actually engaging your it's a physio neurological activity. Like it's engaging every aspect of your being for the release of stress. Absolutely powerful. I didn't even realize that there was a science to journal writing until about 9 months ago. So yes, there's a science to it. But if you don't like to write, if you don't like journaling, you can use the agreement audits to have some voice memo conversations with yourself. You know, turn the radio off on your trip to work, or whenever you make some quiet time for you to have a conversation with yourself. I don't care if you're having a conversation with yourself in the shower, on the toilet, or in your car. You need to have some conversations with you. And I would challenge you to accept the terms of a new deal that's called You Is Who You Is. And only make choices that are aligned with who you really are. Take off your mask. Stop pretending. Stop people pleasing. And stop being afraid. Come out of hiding and live. Thank you for joining me for this journey and for allowing me to be a part of yours. For more information, please visit lawforlove.com or follow us on social media at lawforloveatl. I love you.